Hey, welcome everybody. I'm Chester Elton, and this is my dear friend and co-author Adrian Gossick. Welcome to the Culture Works live stream series, brought to you by the cultureworks.ai, a wonderful online community where it's safe to talk about mental health and anxiety in the workplace. And Adrian, we're going to talk about burnout today. Why are we talking about burnout, Adrian?
Oh my gosh,
Is that
because
top of mind for anybody?
yeah, everywhere I go. I was just yesterday in Florida working with a big airline group. I won't say who, and started talking about this, and people's heads started nodding. You just anybody had any burnout? And every hand goes up. With COVID, cost increases, price increases, layoffs, then we rehire people and staffing shortages. There's we really have to start thinking about our people's mental health and how they are doing.
Absolutely. And listen, as always, thank you so much for giving us 15 minutes of your day. We love our Culture Works community. We've got folks tuning in from India, from Boston. Joe Inone is in the house. Now you know it's a party. Just really wonderful to have your time and your attention. Now, if you're not following Adrian Gostick already on Forbes, you should be. He writes great articles, and we're going to talk about his latest article, 4 Ways to Keep People from Burning Out. And so let's start off with the number one tactic on preventing burnout. Adrian, enlighten us.
Well, first off, 91%, of course, Robert Half says 91% of people right now say they're feeling at least somewhat burned out. That's about as close as you can get to everybody on any human survey, right? You know how hard it is to get 91% of people to agree on anything.
Right.
The only thing we agree on is we're burned out. So as we wrote Anxiety at Work, we talked to some really great leaders. And one of the things we heard was that they balance workloads, because we see this when we go into teams. Oftentimes you got somebody who's working 78 hours a week. And then you got others who are happily going home at 4:30 and 5 every day. I'm not saying that's bad, but what we do need to do is balance the load. So what these leaders will do is they'll sit down once a week with their teams and say, okay, who's working on what? And they start getting a feel for, okay, now, Susan, you've taken the last 3 big assignments. Jared, it's your turn. And they start balancing to make sure that we don't burn out those workhorses. You have a saying, right, about those high achievers.
Yeah, they're the best ones at hiding it, and they'll never say no because they never want to disappoint anybody. It's really interesting. We've got an audience really that is pretty global. Abdullah is calling in from Saudi Arabia. We've got folks from Pakistan and India. I'd be interested, put in the chat, we see this in the States and North America, the US and Canada. I mean, it burns bright for us. I'm wondering, is it the same for you all in your part of the world? Are you finding that you're having that burnout there as well?
Christine from Paris, we've got quite a global audience here.
C'est bon, c'est magnifique. See, Adrian and I, we had the French in Canada, so that's about all we know.
That's about as far as we can go. Yeah.
Chevrolet Coupe. Hey, so here's the thing that I want to ask you about, Adrian. When you talk about balancing the workload, how important is it just not for the leader to bring people in, but for you to get your team to buy in, and create that safe space where people can say, hey, I've got space to take on more, or you know what, I'm burning out, I need some help. How does a leader do that?
It's you have to make it not only acceptable, but good behavior when people ask for help. You just say, oh, that's terrific behavior. Thank you, Michael, for asking, for help. And you reward people who do that versus, the old mentality of, you'd never admit weakness because you can't handle it around here. Yeah. And so it really is a change in environment for leaders. But if you keep managing the old way, you're going to be alone doing this.
Yeah. And interesting, Abdullah did put in the chat box. He goes, look, this is universal. We got Heather tuning in from Toronto. By the way, my beloved New Jersey Devils are playing your Maple Leafs, I think, tonight or tomorrow night. We've won 10 in a row. I'm just saying.
That's hockey for those of you who have no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah, and don't say ice hockey.
Devils playing Leafs? What?
Is this a religious show? Yeah. Anyway, so once you've got the balanced workload thing out, the number 2 that you put in your article, and that is rotate people. And that's kind of like balancing work as well, right?
It is. And we've seen this. Actually, there was a study we quoted in Anxiety at Work where a hospital system rotated nurses off the front lines. Maybe they were working in the emergency department and they took them and put them in pediatrics for a while. And what happened was that they realized that people's brains need time to come off the front line, that soldiers are rotated off the front line.
Right.
People do get, and that it allows the brain to know, I know things are stressful, but at least there's going to be a break coming up. It doesn't even have to be that long, but just a change will make a big difference. So if somebody is always in that high stress position, what can you do to rotate them out, even if it's for a short period?
Abdullah makes a good point here when he talks about, I think work addiction is not too far from burnout. Is that the other face of burnout, is work addiction? What would you say to Abdullah?
Yeah. And our mentor, Marshall Goldsmith, talks a lot about this. We are such an achievement driven world. And we just want to keep ticking things off, more and more achievement, more and more achievement. And sometimes achievement competes with our goals. And so we have to start thinking, goals for overall life. Maybe we say, I want to be a good husband and father. And yet we just keep achieving right at work.
Yeah, that I'll be happy when. Christine makes a good point here. She says, can we definitely recover from burnout, or will it always be in the background? Like, is it always going to be there? It's a great question. Can we ever get to the point where we don't have to be achieving every day, that we can actually take a vacation, or as we say in Canada, a holiday every now and again?
And Chester's not in Canada either.
I'm not. I'm in New Jersey. Here we just go on vacation. That's right. How do you change that culture, Adrian? Or is it just so ingrained that it'll never go away?
It's a great question from Christine, because what we do see is people get a little older in their lives. They can relax a little bit more. They get a little bit more money in the bank. Many people do tend to realize that, okay, it's not life and death if I'm not in that meeting, or if I don't participate to all my give my all on this project. They realize that it's not as dramatic. But early in our careers, people in their 20s and 30s carry a lot of that Christine's talking about. They can't get rid of it. Why? Because, if they do miss a couple of paychecks, then things are a problem. They're going to miss their rent payment. They're going to miss their student loan payments, et cetera. And so the stress is very different where we are in our lives. And as leaders, we have to be very aware of that. We have to help people understand, look, this isn't life and death. And we're going to get into this in a minute, but about prioritizing. But it really comes to this idea of number 3, which is closely monitoring progress. Are we checking in with our people? Are we making sure they're not getting to that level where they're going to feel burned out?
Yeah. It's interesting. We've got a dear friend, David Kashish, who's, head of Comp and Ben and whatnot at American Express. I'll never forget when he talked about burnout and his people. He said, on the team, we come together and say, look, whether you're here or not, the work gets done. And I thought it was such a simple statement. We'll pitch in, we'll get it done. So if you need, if your mother's in the hospital, or you're just really sick, or you just need a mental health day, you know what? It's okay. And I just love the way he made it safe and say, don't worry, the work will get done. And what he's done on his team is, when it's my turn to take that time off, I know that Adrian's going to pitch in. When it's Adrian's time to take time off, we're all going to pitch in. I thought he did a wonderful job in positioning it that way. But you talk about this monitoring progress and the check-ins. And by that, you don't mean the annual review, right? It's checking in a little more often than once in January and once in late November, right?
When you see people burning out, and in the article at Forbes, we give it a list of just some questions. Do you feel like you can complete this project without having to work unreasonable hours? Is there anyone else who might be able to help you we could bring in? Is there any part of the project that might be delayed? Do you need additional training? And most importantly, what have you learned that maybe we could do differently next time when we're up against a task like this? Simple little check-in questions, but they really are important to make our people feel, first and foremost, like they have a voice, but also that you've got their back, that you will roll up your sleeves if necessary to help them out. When a manager is willing to give that kind of support to his or her people, I don't leave a manager like that.
Yeah. No, the check-ins. Talk a little bit about, when we were writing Anxiety at Work, we get that great tip around saying, instead of saying, "Hey, I can tell you're burned out," you say, "I've noticed." Walk us through that. I think we've done it a couple times before, but this is such a great
Oh,
reminder
it is.
because as
It's
leaders,
so
how do
important.
you start that conversation, right?
Yeah, it's so important. Is that idea? What we as we were writing the anxiety at work, what we found is people were trying different things. Like, gee, Chess, you look really tired, or what's
You
going
look
on in
like
your
crap.
yeah, exactly. Well, actually, you don't. You look very spiffy today. But what's going on in your personal life? Both are not appropriate at all ways to start. And so what we found is really the simplest use of words is I noticed. I noticed you're usually the first to offer up ideas in meetings. The last couple of weeks, you've been really quiet. Is everything okay? Is there anything I can do to help? I noticed that you're always on time, but lately you've been a little late. Is everything okay? You start with work, but I noticed means I care
Yeah.
and that you're paying attention. Simple words, but that's how you begin this process.
Yeah, I've noticed I care. Make it safe to talk about. Ahmed Nafal makes a great point here. He says, I think actually work addiction with mutual support and conviction from the team is really getting satisfaction rather than burnout. And I think he makes a good point that there's kind of a fine line. We don't want to misinterpret somebody who's really passionate about their work and giving them support. What I think, though, Ahmed, what we're talking about is over a long period of time, even people that are really dedicated, you've got to be careful that they don't burn out. But I love his point there that let's not dial back on people that are really passionate about their work. We want to support them, right?
Yeah, but what do we do with those people? As you said earlier, we overload them.
We load them up.
It's like, oh yeah, we load them up and more and more until they finally do burn them out. And so, yeah, it is. It's never a perfect balance. It's a delicate balance with people who love what they do. They love their work. I mean, you and I do, but we have learned that we also have to have time away.
Yeah.
And we've become very deliberate about that, realizing our brains need to reset. And that makes us better at our work when we come back to it.
So we've talked about, balance workloads, rotate your people, those check-ins. Now, number 4, and you kind of gave us a preview a minute ago, and we've got 2 minutes left, is, prioritize. Why
Yeah.
is that number 4, and why is that so important?
Well, as we did our interviews for the book, we heard over and over again from especially younger people. I would kill for my boss to just sit down with me on a Monday morning and prioritize what work I have during the week. What has to get done, what can fall off. That sounds like really obvious. But when you're new or you're a junior employee, you're terrified about letting things slip. And sometimes when you're terrified about that, what happens is perfectionism comes in and actually you end up getting less done because you're so worried about what can and can't get done. You become frozen like a deer in headlights. So really taking some time to help our people understand each week, these are our priorities. This is critical. This is a maybe. This one can fall off if it has to. This is more of a long term, and really helping people understand their projects and how they fit into the overall success of the organization.
Absolutely. Surba Ranjan makes a great point. He says, my boss, after a couple of hours, says, "Hey, just hit the deadline. It's okay. Like you don't have to be here for all. Here's
Yeah.
the deadline. Pace it out, get there." Hey, well, our time is almost up. It always flies by. We will jump into LinkedIn and answer a lot of your questions that we didn't get to. We sure appreciate you showing up. But Adrian, as we always do on our wonderful Anxiety at Work podcast, available where you can find podcasts everywhere, I always say, look, well, what's the one thing you want people to remember from our conversation today?
Well, if you are in a fire drill mode constantly in your organization, everything is an emergency. It's just miserable. So think about what you may be doing as a leader to lead to burnout and pull back on those. Some really simple things, balance workloads, rotate people, check in on people regularly, and help them prioritize really simple ideas. Unfortunately, they're rare in their execution.
Right. Well, hey, this is the Culture Works live stream series. We look forward to the next one. Our book, Leading with Gratitude and Anxiety at Work, are available anywhere you find your books, also an audiobook. And please check out our community, thecultureworks.ai, where we're creating this great community. And one last plug, and it's free. Sign up for our Gratitude Journal newsletter on LinkedIn. Follow me, follow Adrian, subscribe to his wonderful articles. in Forbes. If that isn't enough for you, we'll think of something else between now and then. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. Have a great day of mental health. Take care of each other. Be kind, be grateful, be of service, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone.